this dog's name pool. I lost. Who knew that it was named after the swoosh? Nike the dog. But that's just, again, just another thing that we evaluate, and that's one of the amazing things about this virtual draft. We saw so many people's living rooms or bedrooms, maybe in a certain rooms in a reflection. But there's Nike the dog right there at the Nantucket kitchen table. What a beautiful looking dog that is, and I just love watching Belichick feed Nike the dog treats. Just another evaluation to be had. By the way, speaking of evaluations, seeing people's pads. Cliff Kingsbury is our first guest on tomorrow's edition of the Rich Eisen Show.
Talk about impressive.
Cliff Kingsbury,
man.
the Arizona head coach. He will be first up. Sam Farmer, our friend at the Los Angeles Times,
Love Sam.
named his surroundings the Ritz Kingsbury. He drafted from the Ritz Kingsbury.
That's well done.
What Sam Farmer called it.
One day.
Anyway, he's going to be right here in this very spot at this very time tomorrow. But right now, we enjoyed seeing his posh surroundings, or at least the background behind him, as we saw in his expert analysis on the ESPN NFL Network coverage. Made me very jealous to share this man who loves wearing shorts and no shoes, but just he looks all business on top and party underneath. He's kind of like the human mullet. Daniel Jeremiah, how are you, DJ?
Well, Rich, thank you. First of all, it's great to be back with you. I want to tell you that the phrase mixed emotions is thrown around a lot, and I now have a perfect explanation for it, and that is this draft for me, because mixed emotions in that not having you, not having Charles Davis, my buddies, and we have so much fun.
Right.
I mean, that sucked. But I'll be honest with you, the fact that so many Michigan players and so many Tennessee players were drafted, if we were going to be apart for a year, I was very thankful that it was this year, and I'm hoping next year I can get back in Charles and get after him a little bit and give you a hard time. But your alma mater's had so many players drafted. I would have got killed if we were all together.
I know, there were 10 of them. There were 10 of them from my alma mater, and it was great to see. And I thought Peoples-Jones was a steal, and but there really wasn't much to talk about in terms of the one would say pressure points of this draft with my alma mater or Tennessee. So I want to kind of get into the headlines of all this.
Yep.
And the headline, one would say, is what the Packers did. Can you walk us through how things go in a draft room where you'd think Green Bay would draft a receiver in the deepest wide receiver draft possible, certainly after what happened on Thursday night, and yet they come away with nothing? How does that happen?
Well, it's interesting how you look at it. I was just talking with Bucky about this on the podcast, which was he was saying that for his image from the 49er game, right, where they got clobbered by the Niners, was the Niners running the ball down their throats. And he came away from that thinking, okay, well, they want to be more physical, so that's why they drafted the big back, Dylan from Boston College. That's why they made the picks that they made on the defensive side of the ball. Everything they did to him was about trying to be more physical with San Francisco. And I left that game, Rich, thinking they have to get Aaron Rodgers some more firepower. Like, they can't compete with these top teams to win the ultimate prize unless they have more weapons. And they obviously did not look at it that way. So that was that was a little bit of a disconnect there. The quarterback thing, I understand that from an organizational decision. If you were huge Jordan Love fans, and you feel like he could be the quarterback for the next 15 years, that's the long view decision, and that's where you say, okay, the general manager has the control, because if the head coach had control, they're normally thinking about next year. This was not a next year decision. This was a next 15-year decision. So that's kind of how that goes down in the room.
I understand that, I guess, but what about not calling Rodgers? Again, we had Ryan Wood, the Green Bay Press-Gazette beat writer for the Packers, on the show in our first hour, and he confirmed that they did not give him a heads up that it was coming. How does that happen, Daniel?
Well, the Bears can one-up them on that, though. They don't even have the best story in the division. When they had they had Glennon, right? They had Glennon at like a fan event when they picked Trubisky. I know communicated very well.
No, and Flacco was at a fan event, right? When Lamar Jackson got picked, or something like that.
Yeah.
And I understand that, but
I don't think these things. I'm with you. To me,
but this is Aaron Rodgers we're talking
I would
about
give
here.
a heads up. It's Aaron Rodgers. It's a different level. I'm with you on that. If it was me in that situation, I would have had a conversation with him, a little bit ahead of time. Not like you're on the clock, but just, hey, if there's a certain situation with a particular quarterback is there at the end of the first round, we have to look after the long-term health of this organization. I'm not saying we're going to pick him, Aaron, but I just want you to hear from us that if there's a particular player there, we would consider taking him, and I don't want you to be blindsided by that. You can have that conversation with him, a month before the draft if you want to, but at least you've laid some type of groundwork, some type of communication there with him.
So I've got Howie Roseman on in a final hour. DJ, what did you make of the Hurts pick?
I think when it first happened, it was kind of shocking a little bit, trying to make sense of it. And then the more you think about it, the more you can wrap your mind around it for a couple of different reasons. Number one, and I'm sure Howie will lay this all out for you. The one thing I don't agree with is that there's some of the thought of, well, we can play him a little bit and then we'll be able to spin him off for a pick. Well, that one doesn't make as much sense. You spend a second-round pick on him. You spin him around for hopefully – a 2, maybe a 1 like that. It's one thing if you take a guy in the 6th round and develop him and then you traded him for a second-round pick or a first-round pick. Like, okay, that's a huge difference. But you took him in the 2nd round, so I don't really count that. What I count is this is the team that lost a playoff game last year. McCown, wasn't totally healthy, but they saw firsthand if they just had a little bit better play at the quarterback position, they win that playoff game. So that's part of it. The second part of it is you've invested all of this money in your starter. The Eagles have always invested in the backup. Think about Chase Daniel, obviously, with Nick Foles. They've put money into that position. Well, once you pay Carson the $100 million deal, you don't want to devote another $10 million a year to his backup. Now you just got so much money tied up into one position. So we want a quality player, but we don't want to invest a bunch of money. The only way you do that is with a higher draft pick. So that, to me, kind of gives them some more financial flexibility at other positions because they haven't invested quite as much in the quarterback position. I know it's kind of complicated, Rich.
Sure.
But I think that kind of all came together into making the move that they did.
No, I mean, and we're seeing, again, Taysom Hill, right? We're seeing guys who are quarterbacks, in quotes, come in and perform in significant manner, right? And taking quarterbacks off the field. And the quarterback that's being taken off the field in New Orleans is Drew Brees. And that is as high up the flow chart for GOATs as you can get, in many ways. So I can kind of see it, right? I mean, you can,
Rich, think about this, too. Think about this. This defense, the Eagles have had some different players come in and out. Jim Schwartz is one of the best defensive coordinators in football. They have a top 5, top 7 defense almost every single year in Philadelphia. So they're going to be in games, and if Carson Wentz misses a couple games, you don't need somebody to come in there and beat Carson Wentz and run that whole offense. If Jalen Hurts comes in there and makes a couple plays, and you can score 17 points, you have a chance to win football games. Like he can do that. Without having to, put him in the same role and ask him to do the exact same things Carson does. I think he can kind of get you through that stretch of games. So not only a little I could see them using packages down on the goal line. He's not going to be like Taysom Hill in the standpoint. Taysom Hill, plays some wing back and
right.
He's blocking guys.
Special teams,
doing all that.
Right?
But he can come in and play quarterback down in packages or zone read. Use him down on the goal line. Like that's what he would be in that role.
Daniel Jeremiah, my compadre from NFL Network, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So I give you the floor. The draft that impressed you the most was which teams?
There were some good ones. The Minnesota Vikings, I thought nailed it.
Okay.
When you look at their first 3 picks, they had 2 first-rounders. Last year, Diggs, when I looked it up, I was kind of surprised. Diggs caught 63 balls last year. I bet you Justin Jefferson will come in and catch more than 63 balls this year.
All right.
As a rookie. He's ready to go, and he fits them beautifully. He's a pro. Everybody you talk to at LSU raves about this kid. So he's going to come in, play right away, starter, productive. He'll help you offset the loss of Diggs. Then you go out and get Jeff Gladney, a corner who is feisty, competitive, like the Mike Zimmer traits that you would write down on a sheet of paper. This guy checks them. Like he's going to come in, start right away. Really good player at the corner position. They go out and get Ezra Cleveland, who was one of the most athletic tackles in this draft. Now, they have O'Neal. I want to say O'Neal ran in like the 4.8s. It's just a ridiculous time. So you've got probably the most athletic tackle combination in the league. Not saying they're the best players, but just phenomenal athletes that can show you tremendous range in that zone stretch game that they run with Gary Kubiak. You've got Garrett Bradbury, who, if he's not the most athletic center, is one of the 2 or 3 most athletic centers in the NFL. So with Dalvin Cook and all these ultra-athletic linemen, like in Gary Kubiak's scheme, Dalvin Cook's going to rush for a zillion yards next year. So I just love what they did. They got guys that fit them so well.
And what do you make of the 49ers draft? Even though they didn't draft many, but they had a big Thursday night, and then Trent Williams gets added. I just think Lynch is just crushing it, man. That's what I said last segment. But
ironically, I was just texting with Shaw. I should text David back and tell him that I don't know what tuition is at Stanford, but after that draft, I think it might go up because Lynch has proven that they teach him pretty well up there. I mean, to come out of this, to get a younger, cheaper version of DeForest Buckner and Kinlaw, to come away with, when healthy, and that's been a minute, but when healthy and on the field, Trent Williams is the best tackle in football when he's right. To get Brandon Ayuk, who fits them, run after the catch, with him and Deebo Samuel, they're going to get Jalen Hurd back. That is a lot of firepower for that group. So beautiful job of trading, maneuvering around the board. John Lynch, I thought it was a clinic.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show. What a crucial draft for the Dolphins. How do you think they fared?
I would say I liked it. I didn't love it. I thought they had an opportunity. They could have done a little bit more with all their picks. Now, I think the fact they got Tua, I thought that was the right call. I thought he was clearly the second quarterback. So, you got to take a little bit of a gamble on his health, but no risk it, no biscuit, right? That's Bruce Arians, and I believe in that. So
right.
I think getting Tua there was the right call. Austin Jackson, upside. You probably had to take him where you did. He's not ready right now, but can be your left tackle. I like Robert Hunt, who they got. He's a good player. But Noah Mcconaughey, their third-round pick, he was like my 70-something player. I thought that was a little early for him. Some of these other guys that they went throughout the draft, I liked it. I thought, it wasn't a home run. I thought it was a good draft. If Tua hits, then it's all worth it.
Right.
But it was good. It was good, not great. I thought the teams that had all the picks, I thought Minnesota was better. I thought Jacksonville, that's a reboot. They traded all those veterans, and I thought they nailed it. Henderson is really, really gifted cover corner. Kayvon Chason gives them some more pass rush on the opposite side of Josh Allen, frees them up with Ngakoue if they want to move him, if that thing comes to an ugly end here. Laviska Shenault was good value, who's a playmaker now. They're starting to add some pieces around Gardner Minshew. And then, guys like Shaq Quarterman from Miami, just really good leaders, good guys. I thought that kind of changed this whole feel of this team a little bit with this draft.
Daniel Jeremiah here on the Rich Eisen Show, and you were kind enough to mention at the very top of our conversation that my alma mater had 10 Wolverines drafted in this draft, a fifth of them by Bill Belichick, who loves himself some Wolverines. Obviously, he took Winovich last year too. What do you think of Bill's decision, obviously, to move out of the first round? And then we saw what he did on Friday night, and then what he did on Saturday, and none of them are a quarterback. What do you make of the Patriots draft, Daniel?
Yeah, it's funny, Rich. I looked up, and I think we might have talked about this last time we spoke, but I found this presentation that a scout had given us in Baltimore training camp, and he had worked under Belichick, and this was a presentation from 1991 with the Browns. And Belichick had described what he wants at every single position. This is going back to 1991. And you could literally pull that out and look at their entire draft and go, he has not changed one bit. Like, he knows what he wants. He knows what fits him, what fits their scheme, and how they play. And it was just right down the list of all these guys with versatility, guys that can play the run really well. He still values that. A tight end that you can move around and do different things with. Like, the whole draft is just quintessential Bill Belichick Patriots. Just that's who they are. Not taking a quarterback, I don't think where they were picking, they felt like they were going to draft a quarterback that was better than Jarrett Stidham. So they just weren't going to spend a pick on a guy that they didn't think was better than him. He was a fourth-round pick, but he's very talented, and I think they're going to give that kid a chance.
So name me the quarterback second day if you want. I know we'd hit on Hurts, or third day that you think has an opportunity to mesh well with the team that's drafted him and maybe be a long-time starter in this league?
It's hard to find them. I think when you talk about the 4 guys in the first round, and then you go beyond that, Jalen Hurts, I think it would have to be for another team down the line, would be probably my first choice there of guys out of the first round that have a chance to be long-term starters in the NFL. Jake Fromm, I don't think he's not a great fit in Buffalo in terms of being on the field. I think he's going to be an asset to Josh Allen in the room, helping him. But I could, if he's going to be a starter in the NFL, I don't see it happening in that environment there. I think he'd have to go somewhere else. But probably my favorite day 3 quarterback pick would be the kid that the Jags took, and Jake Luton from Oregon State. He's big. He's a good decision maker. He's pretty athletic. He's someone, if obviously Gardner Minshew played well last year, but if he were to falter, it wouldn't be shocked of all the day 3 guys if he was the one that got on the field at some point in time next year.
So, you told me, DJ, because you know Joe Douglas very well, and thankfully you didn't leave me to go work with him, that this was a Noah's Ark offseason for the Jets. They needed 2 of everything. Why are they using a 4th-round pick on a quarterback? Why would they do that?
Well, I think when you look at them last year, as you do, Rich, which I couldn't believe, when you go back and look at them and their record, what were they, 7-9, right?
I know.
Or were they 8-8?
No, they were 7-9.
I don't know how they were. And when you look at the postseason and you look at the games they had to play without Sam Darnold while he was out with mono, if they had better quarterback play during that period, the Jets could have been the postseason last year, which is crazy. So they felt like they had to upgrade that backup position. And now you've got an expanded postseason. They just, if Darnold's out a game or 2, they couldn't trot out there what they trotted out there last year. They just had to get better, and they really like this kid. So that's why they use him there in the 4th round. I think that you got to look at the Jets in kind of a 2-plan phase here. This is the first offseason for Joe Douglas. It was about protecting Sam Darnold first and foremost, which they did in free agency, and they got 2 good tackles in the draft. And I think next year, where they have a ton of money in free agency, and then they'll have their assets in the draft. I think this year was about the big guys. I think next year will be phase 2, where you'll see them go heavy on the weapons.
And who had the best home draft setup that you thought? Let's evaluate that, Daniel. As you know, your job is to evaluate, and everything's an evaluation this time of year. You saw it all during the broadcast. Yep. I was just there on my laptop and draft-a-thon while you were checking everybody out and doing your evaluation. Who had the best home draft setup from your perspective?
Well, I actually was talking to Matt Money Smith, our buddy, about this, about Kingsbury. Kingsbury's was, to me, it was a Drakkar Noir. What was the name?
Drakkar Noir. I would go more. I would go more
in the middle of a GQ.
Yeah, it's
magazine.
more.
You have to pull the flap and you can smell it.
Yeah, right. Exactly. This does have more than just one sense to it. I agree. It looks like a Bulgari ad to me. That's the way we do it. There's a sort of a European touch to it in a way. Certainly with that European cut shirt and no socks and loafers, which is impressive. And then let's be honest though.
What about McVay? McVay has a better view. They both have the paver thing, which I'm looking into my backyard, and I don't know if I can get more than 3 or 4 of those pavers in, but with the grass around it, man, what a sweet look. And then he has the LA skyline behind him. So McVay in the daylight hours, I think, is second place. But once the city lights pop behind him, man, I might go McVay over Kingsbury in an upset.
How about Belichick and the dog? How about Bill and his dog? How about Bill and Nike? This should be a Bill and Nike show. He's feeding the dog. He's giving the dog treats. It's fantastic.
And the table, to me, I was looking
at Nantucket. That's got Nantucket written all over it. That's got Nantucket written all over that table.
That has we just took Eric Metcalf, and I'm fired up. I'm going to go buy a new kitchen table, and he stuck with it. He is the same table that he had back then. He is rocking now, and I appreciate that.
And then you did you did the shorts thing, right? All weekend long. You didn't put on pants, did you?
Oh yeah. No, I'm actually wearing jeans right now, and I feel like I'm in a tuxedo.
Look at your setup. I mean, we're looking at right now the socks, no pants. All business on top, party underneath. The socks do match the tie. You've got a very interesting carpet situation. No, but the flowers. Whose touch is that? Is that your wife's? The flowers behind you
No,
there?
this is none of mine. This is NFL Network sending our talented crew out here. They put the
flowers
furniture behind me, the lamp, the flowers, the whole thing. This is none of mine. None of this stuff is mine.
Come on, dude. The flower.
Swear to you.
I got to set up. They don't bring me flowers. They don't bring me flowers. They brought you
Are you going to
flowers.
start singing Barbra Streisand right now?
I am. They don't bring me flowers anymore. They don't even bring me love songs. What the hell?
You did not know I had that club in my bag.
I did.
You did not know that I had the Barbra Streisand in my bag.
I definitely knew Mayock didn't. Did you see what Mayock did when I asked him to send me his draft setup? Did you know about that? Did you heard about this?
He took an outside picture. Of course he did.
And I said, no, I don't want your outside picture. I want your inside picture. And he just texts back, I know what you meant. That was it. That's the last I heard of him. I haven't heard from him since then.
Can I give you my Mayock interaction during the draft?
Go for it.
So he takes Ruggs, right?
Yes.
So I text him. I said, "Speed!" ! Right?
Mm-hmm.
So then that's right after that pick. Well, I don't send him anything after he takes Arnett. He doesn't reply to the speed thing. Thursday night, 10:48 p.m. Speed, yeah, plus your 8th-ranked quarterback! So he was listening.
He knows exactly your evaluation. He knows exactly.
Yeah.
I love it, man. You're the best, Daniel. Great job. What you had to say about Mort, too, was so heartfelt and beautiful. Just beautiful. The whole thing, soup to nuts, DJ, really.
I appreciate you, man. Let's get to Cleveland, buddy. I'm anxious to get our band back together and have a lot of fun, man.
But, I mean, honestly, you represented all of us at NFL Network so well, so expertly, and made everybody proud to be able to call you colleagues, sir. Great job.
Well, I appreciate you. Thank you so much, Rich. And you did a wonderful job raising a ton of money. And some of the videos that I saw, I didn't get to see it live, but the Tom Brady stuff, that was pure gold. It was gold.
It was great on Draft-a-thon Live. Thanks again, DJ. We'll chat soon, okay?
Thanks, buddy.
You got it. That's Daniel Jeremiah, NFL Network, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. We'll take your phone calls, and we'll set up Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance on ESPN. Isaiah Thomas. Oh, that violin playing is so tiny right now. That's next on The Rich Eisen Show. Oh, gosh. I'll tell you what. Isaiah Thomas, what he had to say today and what he had to say on The Last Dance. All right.
Get out of here.
Hold on a second. You know how I feel about Isaiah, right? Because of what he did with the Knicks and how Dolan can't quit him. I'm just letting you know. And letting all my friends in Connecticut know at the NBC Sports headquarters, it is possible. The first emergence of a Dolan wormhole on NBCSN is it's about to hit.
Oh, baby.
It's about to hit. Because you want to talk about the forecast. If you could forecast a Dolan wormhole, right? I mean, honestly, if you're the Rich Eisen Show, Dolan wormhole.
Forecasting.
Hold on a minute. If you're the Dolan wormhole meteorologist of the Rich Eisen Show.
I mean, I am the in-house meteorologist, so I'll take that.
If you could just look out over the ocean to see what's coming so you could understand what category of wormhole might hit the coast.
Sure.
Okay. Oakley, Isaiah Thomas, Chicago Bulls, Bad Boys. I mean, those are all swirling together to create a Category 5.
No, there could be 5 different storms.
You know what I mean? Like they're all
the perfect storm.
Perfect storm.
Hurricane Oak, Hurricane Phil Jackson, Hurricane Isaiah, Hurricane Bad Boys, Hurricane
storm.
Phil Jackson. All of them. They're all swirling in the ocean, and the heat builds. I'm going to do my best to not go full here.
That's where the fish are, Don.
Okay.
We're going out. I went out yesterday in the fog. Wasn't fun.
I have not done a Dolan wormhole yet.
Not for NBC.
No, not for NBCSN.
No.
And I don't know if I'm going to go full in that because I might be, again, I have a lot of these emotions filled up.
Right.
Okay, Jason Hare of The Last Dance. joining us in a second. We'll take some phone calls, too, at 844-204-RICH. We appreciate all of those out there on youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show for bearing with us on our technical difficulties in the first hour and change of our program. But we're up and running now, correct?
Yes,
it's
we're
beautiful
up.
and
We're
live.
up. We're good. We're live.
And
live.
in color.
We love it. In color.
In color. We'll be back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show, 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Let's take the phone call of Mason in Fort Worth, Texas, right in the Metroplex, where the Dallas Cowboys got themselves CeeDee Lamb on Thursday night. What's going on there, Mason?
How are you doing, sir? I just have a little comment for you.
Okay, what do you have?
Well, my neighbor across the street is a diehard Packer fan. So I sprung a little deal on him yesterday, and his jaw dropped. So here you go.
Uh-huh.
Aaron Rodgers, in 2022,
yes,
when the draft goes to Vegas, will be traded to Mr. Mayock and John Gruden, and he'll finish out his career with the Las Vegas Raiders.
That's not a bad shot to call right there, man. Because just again, we had Ryan Wood, the beat writer for the Press Gazette in Green Bay, on the first hour. I'm like, give me the pressure points here, because there's pressure points. When does guaranteed dollars run out? When do they think Love could be ready? How much time would Rodgers have to turn Love into Garoppolo, where they're like, okay, Love is a commodity that we could flip to another team that could use him, while we're going to run with Aaron. We'll extend him and just have him run into his 40s here. And he pegged 2022. Like, that's the spot. It's going to be 2 to 3 years for this thing to all play out. And Rodgers will have this upcoming season in 2021 to say that. And then we'll see how Derek Carr fares this year, and if Mariota is, in fact, the guy that they would turn to and turn, Derek Carr into the Vegas Raiders version of him, and he would become the Vegas Raiders version of Tannehill. You never know. That's not a bad one. To troll your neighbor as well. It's
pretty good.
That's an excellent neighbor trolling
that.
right there. I do like that. Thanks for the call. That's not too bad. And that's part of the reason why I think I'm also enjoying The Last Dance on ESPN as much as I am, because it does appear to be, at least in the sport that I'm focused on, because it's my professional, NFL network hosting gig that I'm doing, and also this show, phone lines light up when we talk NFL. The Brady Belichick end game, the Jordan end game with the Bulls. Now we're seeing the Rodgers clock beginning to tick louder than we thought, right? And every single time I see the flash forward to 1998, or they're in the final half season of The Last Dance, I'm thinking to myself, this is going to end different. It's got to end differently. Same way that I look at Michigan play North Carolina. The timeout's not coming. It's not coming. It can't come. How can it come? And every single time I'm like, oh my God, they're going to break this team up. How do they break this team up?
Yeah.
How do they break up a team that is playing like this, even with Dennis Rodman doing what he's doing? By the way, a great Carmen Electra appearance last night.
Didn't see that
one coming.
Man,
oh my gosh.
Man.
And, seeing this entire drama play out, and seeing how you just can't keep, it just rarely ends well. And you're like, how could Phil not stay? How do they just look at Jordan and just say, yeah, we'd love to have you play for us, but hey, if Jordan leaves, it's on him, not me, says Jerry Krause, just as the team strolls into Salt Lake to play the Jazz.
Unreal.
And Phil is letting Rodman go off to Vegas for a holiday, and Jordan drags him out of bed with Carmen Electra saying, you're coming back to work. Apparently, as Jason Hare, the director, will join us at the top of the next hour, that he was not in Vegas. Jordan did not fly to Vegas. Right. He went across the street to where Rodman, I guess, had a crashing pad across from the Berto Center where they worked out in suburban Chicago.
Yeah, it made it seem like Jordan
took a flight.
overnighted to Vegas, but that's not what happened.
And then the thing I love about this, too, is just the flashbacks to those 80s years and those early 90s years, okay?
Love it.
when I was in college at the University of Michigan from 86 to 90, and I hated the Pistons. I hated the bad boys with every fiber of my being, and so many of my fraternity brothers and so many of my friends on campus were just out of their minds with just glee at how the Pistons were playing and how well they were performing and winning championships while I was on campus. And I hated them. And when Jordan said last night that he still hates the bad boy Pistons, I looked at Susie and I'm like, me too. I hated them. When every single time they would foul people and they would just shove them in the back, and Rodman was one of them, and just Mahorn. But I had particular animus for Bill Laimbeer, and to this day I do. And when Laimbeer said he wasn't, when Laimbeer apparently, according to Isaiah Thomas, said, let's not shake their hands after the Bulls finally get past the Pistons, and Jordan points out how we shook their hands 2 years running, and they hated doing it, but they still did it. And Jason Hare, the great job by him to show the video to Jordan. This is what Isaiah Thomas had to say. And by the way, one of the things I want to ask Jason is what sort of conversations he had with the ESPN brass, who I tip the cap to let them work blue, not bleep it out. It's just dynamite.
It's way better.
But Jordan's response to Isaiah was just like, I don't care what he has to say.
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there saying, yes, because Isaiah, all those bad boys years, he skated because he had a wonderful smile and a great way about him, and he was just as bad as the rest of them. And I hated him too, which is why when the Knicks and James Dolan went in his direction and said, please fix us after you ruined the CBA, he couldn't quit him. Honestly, it's like, why not hire Reggie Miller, who I hated just as much? I want to talk about the most hated players a Knicks fan could have from that era. It would be Reggie Miller, because obviously what he did, it's not anything else. You just ripped our hearts out and showed it to us pumping. Hated him, hated McHale, and I hated Isaiah Thomas. All of them. But you couldn't hate Jordan because he was just above it, because he was just that great. So Isaiah Thomas had this to say on ESPN today, because I guess it took him aback to see how Jordan still had an animus towards him and the bad boys today, and still held a grudge about not getting his hand shook after finally beating the Pistons. This is what he had to say.
Tried to do everything correctly, and I thought I should have made that dream team. However, I wasn't a part of it. That hurt me. And looking back, if I'm not a part of the dream team because, a lapse in emotion in terms of not shaking someone's hand, if that's the reason why I didn't make the dream team, then I am more disappointed today than I was back then when I wasn't selected.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, sorry, bro.
You've ever heard the phrase, it's not you, it's me? You ever heard that phrase, it's not you, it's me? Hey, let me ask you this question.
Okay.
Who is the coach of the 1992 Dream Team?
Chuck Daly.
Ah!
Yeah.
You mean the coach of the team who didn't shake Jordan's hand? Jordan's fine with that. Oh, yeah. Chuck Daly can coach. Isaiah, it's not him. It's you. It's you. There's a mirror. Somewhere in your world, look in it. If he really sits here and thinks, oh, that's why they make the dream team, I didn't shake their hand and Jordan's still so pissed, and if that's the case, it makes me so much more upset. Chuck Daly coached the dream team. That was the coach of the dream team, was the coach of the team that wouldn't shake his hand. Even Jordan's able to separate those two things.
I mean,
come on.
I think in next episodes, we're going to find out the dream team stuff. It seemed like we're going to get into that. But it's absolutely Michael Jordan went to USA Basketball and said,
I don't want to play with
him or me.
Do you think it was him? Or do you think there might have been some others on that team that felt that way?
I imagine it was.
Do you think it was
everybody.
just Michael, or it might have been a little bit more than just Michael?
Probably was everyone.
Oh, baby.
But one of his best friends was Magic Johnson.
I don't know what to say, other than the fact that this is just a glorious documentary bringing up all this stuff. Horace Grant what he had to say. But the line of the night went to Ron Harper, remembering how he was not put on Jordan, and it was Elo. And his response, again, the fact that it's not bleeped out, that it's let go. And it's funny, we're trying to, Susie and I were like, should we have the kids watch this documentary? And I got a heads up. I'm like, I've been told tonight's not the night to have them sit down and watch it.
Yeah. They could watch the censored version, I guess.
They watched Despicable Me, too, instead. And by the way, in terms of Jordan's, speaking of Despicable Me, he said that he was not going to come across very well. We're 4 episodes in. I'm not feeling that.
Yeah, I'm okay with it.
Not yet.
Yeah.
Not yet. Great stuff, man. I love it. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Phone lines are lit. We'll take your calls in the third hour. Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance on ESPN. Howie Roseman, the general manager of the Eagles, and you right here on this edition of The Rich Eisen Show that you can also listen to on Sirius XM Channel 211 and stream youtube.com/Rich Eisen Show. Akbar, your first pitch in Philadelphia is such the stuff of legend.
Yes.
That it's received a documentary treatment from the ultimate in sports documentaries.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
Oh, it has it.
Check it out.
Wow.
What if I told you throwing out the first pitch at a baseball game isn't as easy as it looks? That many have spent the rest of their lives regretting their trip to the mound. What if I told you a former professional football player who used his speed, strength, and agility was about to have his hard-earned athletic reputation shattered in only a few seconds by a tiny little baseball?
I was so fired up when I heard Akbar was throwing out the first pitch. I mean, I had visions of the big man going out there, throwing a frozen rope, and the crowd chanting, "Ah!" Didn't exactly work out that way, though. I mean, how hard can it be? Rich Eisen threw a strike. Guy's not even a punter. Not even an athlete.
Did you see the Philly Fanatics reaction? That was awesome.
From ESPN Films' critically acclaimed documentary series, 30 for 30, it's Akbar's First Pitch, presented by LensCrafters Prescription Eyewear, Friday at 8 p.m.
Presented by LensCrafters.
That was good. Oh my god. Oh my god. That's my new favorite movie of all time. Oh my god. Oh my goodness. Okay, first off, I'm a huge fan of 30 for 30. And I would like to think of myself as a person that deserves one, but I don't. To get Dennis crying. Oh my god. Here we go. Amazing.
What if I told you?
Oh my gosh.
I told you.
That was bad.
Was Shawshank
participating in this?
I thought it was real. I didn't know.
Oh my goodness.
This is the Rich Eisen Show.
I'm not killing the Jordan Love pick. I'm not.
From the Rich Eisen Show studio in Los Angeles.
And we're assuming Rodgers is sore and will treat Love the way that Favre treated him.
Available now on the Rich Eisen Show app.
Can Love turn into the next Rodgers?
The Rich Eisen Show. Earlier on the show, NFL Network analyst Daniel Jeremiah. Coming up, ESPN's The Last Dance director Jason Hare. Philadelphia Eagles Executive Vice President and General Manager Howie Roseman. And now, it's Rich Eisen.
Our final hour here on this Monday after the NFL Draft edition of the Rich Eisen Show. I am your humble host. At Rich Eisen Show is how you can tweet with us. Our poll question has been up there for a couple of hours. And before Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance, joins us here shortly on the show, prior to Howie Roseman, the general manager of the Philadelphia Eagles, we call him later on in this hour. Chris Brockman, my on-air compadre and producer of this program. What does the poll question look like right now, top of our final hour?
We're looking at the NFL Draft and the biggest head-scratching move from over the weekend. Patriots not picking a quarterback, 13%.
I'm in that. I'm in the group of not being surprised by that at all.
The Eagles taking Jalen Hurts, 17%. Pretty shocking. Packers fans have split the vote here, though. Packers picking Jordan Love, 32%. Not taking a wide receiver, 38%.
Yeah, that's it. That's it for me. Deepest wide receiver draft in recent memories.
Don't take one. Shocking.
At all.
At all.
After you don't give your quarterback a heads up in the first round that we're taking your successor. Trading up, by the way, to do it.
Then you take another running back when you already have a top 5 guy.
Yeah, I know. Let's put it this way. Which is the stranger draft position from this past week? Which is the stranger draft position? Using your top 2 picks on getting backups for your 2 best errands, or our next guest in this hour, Howie Roseman, taking the best Jalen available? Rager and Hurts. Right?
Pretty much.
So I think it's the Packers.
It's crazy. It's the Packers for sure.
My gosh. And just like everybody else in this world, I've been enjoying immensely the 10-part documentary every Sunday night. We're seeing 2 at a time, 2 incredible hours, called The Last Dance on ESPN. And the director of this incredible product is on the Rich Eisen Show right now, Jason Hare. How are you, Jason?
I'm great, man. How are you?
Congrats on this in advance of our conversation here. It's just amazing. Well done. It's so great.
Thanks very much. We're still not done with the series. We're still working every day on finishing the final episodes, but it's great to see the positive response so far.
No kidding. So you're still working. You're in edit bays, et cetera, remotely, or however you're doing this for the final. How many episodes are you still working on right now?
We're down to the last 3 right now. We're about first and goal from the 1-inch line on episode 8, and then we have 9 and 10. We finished our final edit for episode 10 on Friday at around midnight. So that was the end of a 2-year process of all the picture is locked, and now it's a 3-week process because this goes out to 185 countries, so they have to subtitle it, and they have to closed caption it, and then there's sound design, and then an audio mix, and then color correction. So all kinds of just kind of sweeping up details, kind of like the extra point after a touchdown. But we still have some work, but the hard part is over.
Well, I appreciate the football analogies right here, Jason. All that said, when did you get the call and from whom to say, hey, I know we're talking June, but we'd like to move this up because everybody is in need of a distraction right now with what's going on in the real world? When did you get that call?
Pretty immediate. After the shutdown went into effect, which I think was right after the Gobert game, we all kind of looked at each other. I think that was March 11th. And then that following Monday was the 16th. I think that by that Wednesday, we were all talking, ESPN, Netflix, and the NBA, and the Jordan brand, and my team were all talking internally about, can we do this? And then we had a call that week, and everyone said, let's go for it. We can get these on the air, because the first 2 or 3 were done by that point. So we had to just back time out. When are we going to have 10 done, which is around May 15th. So we said, all right, do we want to do 10 weeks in a row with 1 episode? Do we want to do 2 straight weeks with all 10 episodes leading up to May 17th? It was a lot of permutations, but I think they hit the right one with 5 weeks in a row with 2 per week.
Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance, joining me here on the Rich Eisen Show. So many different questions to ask you, but I think I'm going to go for the most important one is, how did you gain Jordan's trust? He's so relaxed. He's got, I guess, his own personal tequila. He's like a fist in is what it looks like next to him, just a couple inches shy of a tumbler with his cigar, and he's so comfortable. How did you gain his trust, Jason?
Well, his team had the foresight to put me in front of him a few times in the lead up to when we began shooting. So I met him in September of 17. This project was brought to me in July of 16, and we were in negotiations and all that for all of these partners to come together for well over a year. I actually had time to go off and make the Andre the Giant documentary for HBO while they were still at the table discussing high-level stuff as to who would air it and all kinds of stuff that I'm not involved in. So by the time I got out of Andre, they were still negotiating and wrapping up those negotiations, and we were ready to go, but I had never met Michael at that point. So they put me in front of him 3 or 4 times within like an 8 or 9 month period just to hang out, nothing high level, just relaxed, because I think he abhors meetings. He'd rather just like chill out with you and have a beer and talk a little bit and get to know you. So we did that a few times. So by the time we sat down for that first interview, he already knew me. It's not like he knows me well to this day. We've always spent, a number of hours together. But I think he knew what my vision for the project was, and I think that he knew that he was in a safe space where I wasn't going to, we tackle some subjects in this thing that people want us to tackle, but it's not done in a salacious way, and it's not done in a gratuitous way. So I think that he felt comfortable that he had the right person telling the story, and hopefully that's the comfort that you see exhibited by him.
Yeah, and in terms of what you're going to tackle in future episodes, I want to put a pin in that, but I want to get into some of the stuff that you've already hit. Jordan said coming into this that he was expecting not to come out smelling like a rose, but it sure looks like Jerry Krause is the antagonist here, Jason. What's your take on Krause's role in all this and where Reinsdorf sits? Because Reinsdorf's got that beautiful suit on, but all I remember back when I was sitting on the SportsCenter set was wondering why would Reinsdorf let Krause do whatever the heck he damn pleased when he could step in and change the dynamic with a snap of his fingers.
He could. He was running the White Sox and still is, owner of the White Sox and the Bulls. And I think that Reinsdorf is from a generation before the owners that we know, the Jerry Joneses and the Mark Cubans, who are sitting on the bench and standing on the sidelines and are very involved in personnel decisions and things of that sort. Reinsdorf was old school, and he hired Jerry Krause because they shared the same philosophy, and he trusted Krause's decisions. As he said in episode 1, I didn't hire someone to win a personality contest. So I think that he was more content to delegate than to dive in deep. He actually he negotiated Michael's final couple of deals, which those are the ones that were for $30 and $33 million apiece. He did those directly with Davis Falk, and then he was the one who flew up to see Phil in the summer before that final season in the summer of 1997. But I think he trusted Jerry immensely, and you know what? Jerry earned that trust because all of those titles, the only piece that was in place when Jerry arrived was Michael Jordan, who had come a year before. Everything else, Jerry was the architect of those teams. So it's a little bit disappointing when I hear, and it's totally not the fault of the audience, because thus far, if you had to pick a villain, it's Jerry Krause. He looks like a cartoon villain to begin with. He checks off all the boxes, and it's easy to blame him. But a lot of people wanted credit for the success of those teams. I think David Halberstam said it best when he said that Jerry deserved more credit than he got, but he wanted more credit than he deserved. And that hits it right on the head. Jerry always just wanted to be one of the guys. He never was one. From the time he was a kid, he was never one of the guys. And now he's hanging out with the ultimate cool kids on the planet, and he's thinking, I put you guys all in place. I'm your boss. So I deserve to be on this bus. I deserve to be hanging out with you and cracking jokes. And he just never was going to be that. So I think by the end of the series, we did try to give Jerry his due, and you're going to see some people offer some superlatives about Jerry that you would not expect at this point in the series. The people who are speaking up on his behalf towards the end of episode 10 are going to be surprising to people. But I just wish that I could have interviewed Jerry myself, because I had so many questions for him, and I would love to have gotten his take. So many people with time, I think that they're more honest. One of Michael's concerns at the outset of this thing was that people with this much time in hindsight would give their own version of the events and it wouldn't be accurate. And I was always of the opinion that, if anything, people are going to be more accurate because they're willing to be more honest because there's less at stake. A lot of these guys, are only involved in the league remotely, whereas even 10 years ago, they had more of a role with their teams and things like that. So it's been really great to see that these guys sat down and opened up, and they were candid, and they were generous with their opinions and their emotions. So hopefully Jerry's character will get rounded out a little bit as the series goes on, but I think that there's no doubt that he was, at the very least, the architect of those teams who put the pieces in place for one of the greatest dynasties ever.
Yeah, he passed away at the age of 77 in 2017, and he was inducted into the Basketball Hall of Fame that year posthumously. Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance here on The Rich Eisen Show. How much of a conversation do you have with ESPN about allowing no bleeps and let everything work blue like you have? It's been dynamite. It really has been so real.
I never would have had the temerity to even offer that up because I definitely thought I would have gotten shut down. I thought we were lucky to get a cigar on TV with some of the rules that are in place, especially with a Disney company. But credit John Dahl, Libby Geist, and Connor Schell, and all the way up to Jimmy Pitaro and even Bob Iger had a say in this thing, and all of them were adamant that this story should be told the way that it was meant to be told and the way that the characters tell it. So I was thrilled. I never, like I said, would have thought. I was hoping they would give us, even at HBO, there was a list of you could have 3 F words per half hour, and you couldn't have anything. If someone was saying something, that was explicit, it had to be referring just to specific genitalia or something. It couldn't be. It was all kinds of lists. This was just all right, the rough one's going to be on ESPN, and the kid-friendly one's going to be on ESPN too, and that's it. So I was thrilled.
It's amazing. I mean, just hearing the raw emotion of Ron Harper talking about not guarding Jordan was amazing. And then, Horace Grant, what he called the Pistons straight up last night because they didn't shake their hands. And Jordan's reactions and the way I think it's amazing, Jason, and I do credit everybody to let because it just does. I understand it's working blue and the language is not safe for work, but it does lend a certain sort of rawness to the emotion that we need to hear. That said, what Rodman story hit the cutting room floor, Jason? There had to be 1 or 2 or 5 about last night.
Nothing explicit. I would have loved to have gone more into, because I think it's easy to paint Dennis as a caricature. He's got he's got the tattoos and the piercings and all that. But I've always been of the opinion that all that stuff is armor, and that there's a much softer guy inside. And we had so many stories about what a gentle guy this guy was. Even when he came to the Bulls, his first day of training camp in 95, 96, no one wanted to talk to him. He was just off shooting by himself in the corner. And Bill Wennington came in and said, why is no one talking to Dennis? And they all said, well, we don't know what to say to him. And Bill and Dennis shared an agent, and he came over and said, hey, how you doing? I mean, Dennis is an introvert, and I know it's not clear when you show him in Vegas and he's surrounded by women and cigar smoke and he's doing the kamikaze shots, but he is at heart an introvert. And this is a guy who was looking for a father his entire life, never had one. And he found one in Chuck Daly, and he found one in Phil Jackson, and he found an authoritative figure in Michael. He just wanted structure, this guy. That's it. And he wanted to be wanted. He wanted to be loved. I think Dennis is deep down a really needy guy. He wants attention because he wants people to love him in some way. So I wish we could have dived a little bit deeper into that. But as ridiculous as it sounds, 10 hours isn't enough time to tell all the stories that we had to tell. So we had to just scratch the surface on that.
And I know you got to go in about a minute, so just some quick hitters. How deep do you get into Jordan's baseball tenure and why he quit and what the rumors about all that are? Do you hit any of that?
Deep. We got into everything. I mean, to Michael's credit, there was nothing that was off limits. And we interviewed David Stern extensively about it. We interviewed Rod Thorne and Brian McIntyre, all the people who made the decisions that would have been made if this secret suspension occurred. My brother Paul is a lawyer down in Miami, and I consulted him for exactly how to ask these questions of David Stern, because there's no one more savvy and more fun to interview and spar with than David Stern, and he's just been a hero of mine forever for his intelligence and his work ethic and what he did with the league. So we had the perfect wording. That he would have to answer. If he answered these things and they were truthful, then it would put all these rumors to rest. So we spend a couple of episodes on the arc of Michael leaving, why he left, the rumors about why he left, the truth about whether or not those rumors are true, and then his return. Episodes 7 and 8, May 10th is when you can get all that.
So you're saying you were more nervous interviewing David Stern than either President Clinton or Obama, is what you're saying?
Different levels of nervousness.
Okay.
Apple's nervousness and orange nervousness, but I wasn't trying to get definitive legal statements out of Obama and Clinton.
I bet not. And then the last question, that is the most important question. Chris Brockman, you have that. I know you want to ask this question.
Yeah, of course. Are we going to see Rich with Hare in any of these episodes, Jason?
Yes.
Oh my
gosh! And it's luscious and flowing, and you know, no special effects needed, man. It just jumps off the screen.
The reason why you don't have many of those is because Stewart always demanded the Jordan stuff. I never really got a word in edgewise when it came to Jordan, Jason,
Stewart's
to be honest.
voice is in this. I think his face appears in it a few times. And Michael, as you know, as a UNC guy, is a huge fan of Stewart.
I know that.
He's sorely missed, but it's great to feel his presence in this thing, because I'm sure he'd be thrilled to be a part of it, too.
Jason, congrats. You're being pulled in many different directions. I appreciate you being allowed to be pulled into this one. This is dynamite. Can't wait for the next 6.
Thanks so much for having me, Rich.
You got it. That's Jason Hare, the director of The Last Dance. No CGI necessary.
All right. No necessary, buddy.
So they're going to get into the gambling stuff. Because that's the rumor, is that, again, the reason why he went to play baseball is that he was in such trouble gambling that Stern was going to suspend him, and in order to save the league and his reputation, Michael, why don't you just retire and go play baseball? They're going to get into that. Fantastic.
Can't wait.
Well, that's what we want.
It's what we want.
But the rawness.
Yes.
The rawness.
And like he said, these guys, it's so far removed from it. They have, no reason to really bend the truth, unless you're Isaiah Thomas.
Well, I mean, I don't know how much Isaiah is bending the truth. I think he totally believes that the reason why they didn't shake hands with the Bulls after the Bulls finally beat them is because that's the way the Celtics treated them. And they even, and Jason even included that shot of McHale, of Isaiah basically like grabbing McHale as McHale was off the floor. And there were a lot of hard feelings, and they were just paying it forward in the same way that the Celtics treated them. Yeah. But Jordan's point is like, hey, we shook their hands. We didn't want to. They beat the crap out of us, and we still shook their hands. So it's time to actually shake ours. And just the reaction, the rawness of it is so terrific. And I still got pissed off, again, as a Knick fan, watching all of this. And of course, Jordan's first game with Doug Collins, where he dropped 50, was Madison Square Garden. Every minute that Ewing had a shot, Jordan was there to take it away from him. Unbelievable. And even when Jordan wasn't there, Charles Smith was. I don't want to talk, except for a break. We'll be right back. Howie Roseman, Philadelphia Eagles general manager, next on The Rich Eisen Show. And your phone calls at 844-204-RICH as well.
Rich.
What?
Close. You get so close to the wormhole.
I know. The gravitational force of the Dolan wormhole. Well, no, because again, in every single fan, name it. The Orlando Magic, we haven't even hit them yet, right? The Orlando Magic they're going to get theirs. It's coming. They're going to get theirs.
It's coming.
They're getting theirs. The Jazz are going to get theirs. The Cavs got theirs last night. Because the Cavs are out of the picture pretty much the rest of the Last Dance. That was the first big step. Then once that step, then it was the Pistons. After that step, then it was stepping on the rest of the league, essentially.
They were.
And the Rockets got theirs when Jordan went to play baseball, and then Jordan returns, and then nobody got theirs because the Jazz are going to get theirs, right?
Yeah.
The Blazers are going to get theirs.
The Pacers.
Pacers are going to get theirs.
Poor Karl Malone, that team. Oh.
Everybody's getting theirs.
Got it.
Everybody. He was an equal opportunity destroyer, and then at the very end, the Bulls are going to get theirs. The fans are going to sit there and just go, and I guarantee, I would be stunned if the edit bay that he's working on right now, and then they just locked picture, he said, on Friday of the last episode.
Yeah.
There will be, in my estimation, I'd be surprised if there isn't, a good 5-minute segment about what could have been. How many more could they have won? What's the answer?
The Lakers would have been
two
tough
more
for them, though.
Could they have won two more?
Do we think Are we taking into effect the Jordan baseball retirement or no? I think they win in 90.
No. I'm saying if they had held this team together,
I think they win in 90.
The Last Dance
I think
wasn't.
they win in 99 because remember that was.
But you can't say the Lakers because Phil wouldn't have been their coach.
I know.
But they win in 99 because that's the shortened year, right? So these guys are a little bit older, but it's only a 50-game season. So I think they win in 99. 2000, I think, is the real test. Shaq and Kobe are at their height.
But what if Phil's not coaching them?
Phil's not the coach. I don't know how much that matters.
Phil's not coaching?
I'm not sure how much that mattered with those.
I think that.
Remember,
I know
that Lakers team wins 3 in a row. So
I'm with him.
That's the height. That's the height of the Kobe Shaq Lakers.
I know.
So
it's
we'll
hard
see.
to say.
That would have been fun.
I don't know if you could say that. Phil is not just rolling the basketballs out.
Let's say Phil leaves, goes to the Lakers. Now we're into
Hey, look, I know that they were up 3-0 on the Lakers
By the way,
last night.
Coach K could have been the coach.
He could have been.
Yeah.
For the Lakers, maybe, right?
Yeah.
I don't know if, again, you saw last night, and I know they were up 3-0, but the fact that Phil pulls them together in the old form and says, who's open? And Jordan's like, it's Paxson. And he's like saying, okay. And Paxson himself, I'm getting goosebumps even say this. Like, that was the culmination of him having to buy into Phil's triangle offense, take the ball out of your hands, let others do it. And that's what put him over the top for their first. Honestly, you can't discount Phil Jackson and all this. He didn't just roll the basketballs out.
I know. I like seeing Magic. You see Magic as the player you love, too, in that being like.
We'll back in a second. Welcome back to the Rich Eisen Show. 844-204-RICH is the number to dial. We are pleased to have on the phone line a general manager who is right in the thick of things, as all of them were, but this GM in particular, because he was, as you know, I've been doing this draft a long time. I've never really seen somebody take the approach of the best Jalen available for the first 2 picks in his draft. He's the general manager of the Eagles, Howie Roseman. How are you, Howie?
I'm good. I didn't realize our 3rd-round pick, that was his middle name, too.
Is that... Well, it's just the first 2. It looks like you went the best Jalen available, quite frankly. So let's walk.
You know, there's not a lot of Howies playing in the National Football League. You know, my man Howie long gone. So I had to go to the next best thing.
There's not many Rosemans either.
Fact. As LeGarrette Blunt used to say, facts. That's what he used to say to me. Everything I'd say to him. LeGarrette, you gonna be ready to play? You go, facts.
So let's get into it right here. I love that. Let's get into it. 21st overall, you had your choice of the guy you took, Jalen Reagor, also Justin Jefferson, Brandon Ayuk. Why did you take the young man out of TCU, 21st overall? What'd you like about him?
Man, this was a heck of a receiver draft. Everybody knew that, and it was like going to Dunkin' Donuts and sitting there with your family and picking out your favorite donut. You know, you really couldn't go wrong with the amount of talent that they had. And so when we look at this, we try to do things that fit our team, that fit what we have, what we need, and of course, you know, the evaluation of the player. And all those guys you named, we had a lot of love for those guys too. They're heck of players. They're really good players. But, you know, Jalen, when we thought about Jalen and what he could add to our offense, what his skill set is, you know, this is an explosive guy who can separate on the outside vertically. He can run those go routes, those post routes. He's good on those jet sweeps. He's good in the backfield. He's a returner, so he's really good with the ball in his hands. He's explosive. You know, when you look at his testing, we thought he played a lot faster than the 4.47, and then you see, you know, his unbelievable vertical and broad. And we have some familiar. We know his dad. You know, he played for us, Monte, and so we knew the kid really well. And when we think about what a guy like this can do when you have him on the outside, and obviously we got Deshaun as probably one of the best speed receivers in the history of the NFL, and learning from him, and our intermediate targets, our tight end room, which we think may be the best in the NFL, and Zach and Dallas, and you know, we have Alshon and JJ who drafted last year, and Miles Sanders, and just the way our quarterback likes to play, and you could see it going back and watching our tape when he's throwing the ball down the field, and it just opens up everything else. And I remember going back about 2 weeks ago and rewatching some of our season and watching our first game against the Redskins, and there was one play where D-Jack was streaking down the sideline, and our slot receiver Nelson Aguilar was streaking down the middle of the field. And the thing that was most apparent to me was Zach Ertz was standing in the middle of the field wide open with his hands raised. Now, Carson threw it to Deshaun and he caught a touchdown.
Yeah.
But some of those things, they can just really open up the field. And, I learned under Coach Reed, and you've seen what he's done with the targets he's got in Kansas City.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Everyone wants to obviously replicate that as best as possible with speed. But when did Rager have you? Did he have you at hello? Like, was it at the combine? Was it a piece of tape in particular? What was it?
Well, it was funny because, we really start the process right after the draft and in May. And in May, I knew there was a chance that this was going to be a loaded. You always hear we always try to look a year out and see the strengths of the draft a year out. And we knew it was going to be a really strong receiver draft, so I started watching them. And when you looked at his 18 tape, it was phenomenal. He's a 19-year-old true sophomore, and it was phenomenal. So he really got on the radar of May last year, and then just following him and seeing some of the plays that he made that were just really fun to watch. And, we got Pro Bowl quarterback, so I think he'll really benefit from that as well.
Yes, you do have a Pro Bowl quarterback. You also know how
Here we go. Here we go.
Well,
Here we go.
You just walked me into it, Howie. I mean, you just that's an open door. Hello. Look, I love.
Look at straight man.
I love Jalen Hurts. Okay, I love him. We had him on the show about 10 days ago. I just love his story. I love everything about him. Those, however, are out there wondering why you would take him when you've given a gajillion dollars, and I think that is the exact amount of money that you have given or put towards Carson Wentz. Why take Jalen Hurts where you did, Howie?
Rich, my job is to do everything I can to make Carson Wentz successful.
Yes.
We have so much invested in him, and we've shown him with our actions how we feel about him, whether it's by trading up all those picks, while it's, giving him the contract extension. And I think we've done that. We've got a good group of skill position guys. Our offensive line is good. We help him by getting guys like Hargrave and Slay and Roby and re-signing our safeties in free agency. That all helps him. Building a good team helps him. But my job is to ensure that our team and our organization, we're protected, and that all these guys, our coaches work all these hours. Our players, starting today with the virtual off-season program, put in so much time into the building. Our staff is there all the time. I got to make sure I'm doing everything I can that we can have success. And we're a product of our experiences. And I've been in Philly for a long time. And, I saw in 2002, A.J. Feely went 4-2, and we got home field advantage throughout the playoffs. I saw that Donovan McNabb got knocked out of a championship game and we went to our backup quarterback. I saw in 2005 Donovan went down and we went 5-11. The next year we got Jeff Garcia. We won the division. We won with backups. We won the division with Vic and Nick as backups. And obviously, over the last few years, like Carson leading us to that home field advantage in 2017 and Nick finishing it off. So, I feel like just watching what goes on around the league and seeing, even see last year, a couple of teams lost their starting quarterback and they struggled. They struggled a lot. And I just got to make sure that we have an opportunity to be successful with our depth. We played 8 offensive linemen last year. This is a depth league. To win a Super Bowl right now, minimum you got to play 19 games. In the coming years, you'll have a 17th game, so that'll be 20. That's a lot of games. That's a lot of depth. So I say that, and then it's got to be the right player. And I think what's really sad for me is that Jalen Hurts is getting lost in this. I can get it. People can question my sanity and whether it was the right thing to do, right resource to spend. I obviously don't agree with it. That's why we took the second-round pick. But this kid is a heck of a player. He's a heck of a person. He's a huge asset to any team. We're lucky to have him. And I just feel bad that, people don't understand how good he is and how good of a teammate he is.
Well, I mean, he said that any team that gets him is going to be getting a dog. And in terms of a teammate, I mean, you saw what he did at Oklahoma last year. He goes to a team like Oklahoma and says he wanted to help, he didn't use the word culture change, but he did want to bring certain sense of attitude to the program that he didn't think might have been there. I mean, and you can buy it from him. You don't think like there's anything egotistical about him. He is as dynamite as they come, and anybody who might not understand that just needs to Google his name and Tua's right at the same time, and you could learn all of that. But all that said, how are you going to use him? I mean, do you plan on even having a package or two, Taysom Hill type stuff? Like, is that in the cards, Howie?
You know, I can't give you the answers to the test. That's not my job here. I can't do that.
It is my job to find out the answers, though, Howie.
I know I can't do that. You know, but obviously we have a tremendous coaching staff led by a tremendous head coach, and you know, it's our job to get them as many playmakers at their disposal. But you know, listen, Carson Wentz is a Pro Bowl quarterback. We can win a Super Bowl with him as our starting quarterback, and you know, we just kind of went through. All right, if the guys that we had on the board, if we took this position or that position, can we find them? And it's always been since Coach Peterson came here, since I came back in 2016. You know, we said we were going to have a vision and values, and it was going to start with being strong at the quarterback position. And I know when we gave Sam that money, and then chased that money, and then traded up for Carson. There was a lot of the same conversation, and this is who we are. You know, we want to have a strong room. I said something late on Friday night that the media's, you know, giving me a little hard time for, so I'm not going to say that. We just want to have a strong room, and we want to have a strong team. We want to have strong depth at every area, especially the areas we think are really important to winning football games in the National Football League.
That's the longest yes I've ever gotten, Howie. That's the longest yes I've ever gotten.
What was the question? I don't even know. It was a yes question.
I love talking to you, man. This is so much fun.
I appreciate that. By the way, amazing job with the draft-a-thon, man.
Thank you.
Was very, very cool. How special was that?
I appreciate that. Well, I mean, being part of raising money and let alone $100 million for COVID-19 relief. I mean, that really was amazing. And I got to be honest with you, I feel for Miles Sanders a little bit. He was sitting right there in the draft-a-thon draft room with all of us just as Jalen Hurts was selected. And here's this poor kid in his second year, like, you know, everyone's just heaping abuse on him about it, like, what's going on with your quarterback, you know? And he handled it like a pro, because we were just having our fun. A lot of it was tongue-in-cheek because, you know, he was great.
He's a stud, man. He's a stud. That kid's a stud.
He is.
Lucky to have him.
Yeah, I know. He did so well last year. But that said, did you call Carson? I mean, understand again that you still picked up the phone and gave him a heads up that, hey, we're about to take Jalen. Did that happen?
You know, I'd spoken to him earlier that day, and you know, really the day before and throughout the off season, just kind of telling him what was going on. And I told him that depending on how the board went, that it was a possibility. And Carson's an unbelievable team guy. I mean, he wants what's best for the team. Now, listen, I understand. You know, I'm sure everyone's in there and wants what's best for the moment, you know, but that's not really our job. Our job is to protect the organization, protect the team for the long term. And you know, when you look at that position in all of sports, man, it's got to be the most important position in all sports.
Oh, yeah. And I know, and Deion Sanders in the draft-a-thon live room was just having fun saying, how come they're the only position on the field that can't have competition? You know, like I'm a corner, but I'm not allowed to be upset if somebody's, you know, being drafted at my position. As a matter of fact, I'm supposed to compete with this person, and on top of it, I'm supposed to tutor the youngster. You know, but the quarterback's not supposed to. I mean, like that.
Well, listen, there's no competition. Carson Wentz is our quarterback. I want to be clear with that. You know, it's about having a strong room. It's about making sure that all of us are having guys on our team who can come in and play. I mean, you know, you look at it last year, and you even see it when we look about kind of for a short period of time. You know, we had an opportunity, and so much respect for Josh Mcconaughey as a player in person, but obviously, you know, we're playing in a playoff game with our backup quarterback. And you look at the Saints this past year, and they go 5-0 with Bridgewater, and the Chiefs had Mahomes go down and had to get through 3 games and went 2-1 and got home field advantage. So, you know, and how important that is. So it's just to us, you know, what would you pay for that if you had to do it? And you know, someone told me this, a guy who is incredibly successful on Wall Street, and he said, you know, when you hedge, you pay for that. And everyone doesn't want to pay for expensive insurance until you need it.
Howie Roseman, Executive VP and General Manager of the Eagles, here with me for a few more minutes on the Rich Eisen Show. So much made of the virtual draft, Howie. And now that it's done, and it seemed to go without a hitch, were there fewer trades in your estimation, or less activity because of it this year? Do you think?
I would have said that after Thursday night. Maybe would have even said that after Friday night. But, man, Saturday picked up into gear. And I felt like it was rolling like nothing else. And the reality of it is, like, we're talking to these GMs on their phone anyway. There's no difference. So I didn't think that was a big part of it. And it's special. I know, Rich, you got a big family. I got a big family.
Yes.
And I've never been able to share. I've never even watched an Eagles game with my kids, if you can believe that. I don't sit with them during games. I don't watch the games with them. I'm on the road. And so to be able to experience this with them, it was special. It was an experience that none of us will ever forget. Yeah,
I know a lot of evaluators are saying that. So and that the format was also more enjoyable, I guess, for people to watch because there seemed to be more of a flow. Would you want to do it again then? What do you think? If the league
Tell me where to be and when to be there.
No, I know that.
All I need is to be the poster boy for giving my opinion on what we're doing next.
Okay. I mean, but I guess it does. There is I guess, again, I enjoyed doing what I did, and then I was able to put my kids to sleep. Like, my commute was the stairs. You know what I'm saying? So
yeah. My commute was the stairs too, and again, it was fun. It was fun to be able to kind of walk out in between picks, and it was also, I think it was for my kids to be able to see how that worked,
right?
And to see how we're kind of juggling everything, and to kind of appreciate why Dad's not home a lot. I think that this whole kind of process about how we're working through it, it's given us all perspective on kind of balance, work-home life balance, and maybe FaceTime, maybe guarding your desk, which we all do to some levels. Hey, I don't want to go. I got all these people in here, and at the same time, though, I miss the people in our building.
Sure.
I miss the people that we work with every day too. So it's a balance.
So is it any truth to the rumor that you drafted Sean Bradley in the 6th round because your kids just saw Space Jam? That they just saw Space Jam and they thought you should draft Sean Bradley, and that's why you did it. Is that a true story?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, true story.
Okay, very good.
True story.
I like it. Different spelling, but I guess it's just having another Sean Bradley back in Philadelphia that makes sense, even though he was already there in Temple.
I know my kids, for some reason, the Minute Bowl, my kids, my little boys. I got 8-year-old and a 6-year-old, and they're like obsessed with like looking at Minute Bowls because it's Bowl.
Okay.
The guy in the Celtics.
I like it.
I said once to them, you got to see his dad, and now they watch like highlights of Minute Bowl.
YouTube's an amazing thing, man. It really is. Hey, Howie, thanks for the time. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me, man. Stay safe, everyone, and look forward to keeping in touch.
Right back at you. That's Howie Roseman, the EVP and GM of the Philadelphia Eagles, here on the Rich Eisen Show. There's a lot to unpack from this, and also from Jason Hare, and then all your phone calls, 844-204-RICH. So let's quickly take a break, put ducks in a row, and finish with a nice monster segment here on this Monday edition of the Rich Eisen Show on YouTube.com/Rich Eisen Show, Sirius XM Channel 211, and NBC SN. I just love GMs who are just like, you know what? I've been around the block. I'm here in the Northeast. Every single thing I could say is parsed, but I'll be honest as best I can. I'm not going to give you the answers to the test. What do you?
I like that.
But I demand the answers to the test.
Well, of course. That's what your job is.
There's Peterson. I wanted to make a point here first and foremost. Jalen Hurts, QB, but he's drafted as a QB. He's a QB first, and he has a unique skill set that he's a great runner. Obviously, he throws well on the run. Look, they're not going to hand the ball off to him. They've got Miles Sanders, who, as you heard, the general manager loves, and for good reason. Kid was amazing. Kid was dynamite. Kid was incredible. Jalen Hurts isn't going to run it. He's going to throw it. See what Taysom Hill's done? Look, Flacco and Lamar in Baltimore, short period of time. Here you go. They're going to get it out there. They'll see it. And if Wentz plays 5-6 fewer snaps, and he's not running head first and putting his knee out there and all the crazy crap that he does, I think
it's insane.
You do, huh?
And I think having Taysom Hill play at all is insane. If you're Drew Brees, how are you cool with that? I just don't understand.
Well, guess what? Taysom Hill's going to play a lot.
Why would Jameis Winston? We haven't even hit it yet. Why would Jameis Winston sign with the Saints?
Because he's got. He knows that Drew Brees is going to be on NBC next year, and Taysom Hill's got only a 2-year deal, $21 million. He's not a bad backup. You know how old Taysom Hill is? He's 30. You're Jameis? So you could sit there and you're Jameis.
You're paying your 31-year-old backup $21 million?
Yeah.
$21 million is Jameis.
16 guaranteed.
Jameis Winston is going to be the backup to Drew Brees. Taysom Hill will continue to do what he's doing, which is throwing his body around, giving Brees a couple of snaps off. It's still not more than 5.
But then that means he's the backup.
No, he's not. The backup is Jameis Winston in the same way that Taysom Hill wasn't the backup when Brees actually went out. It was Teddy Bridgewater for 5 games, which he won every last one of them.
But the best quarterback in the playoff game was Taysom Hill.
If I'm Jameis Winston, let's have this conversation when we come back out. We're back in 45 seconds. It's a great conversation to have.
We've got all week. There's so much stuff to talk about.
No. I mean, this thing's going to pop later on.
I also want to ask you about the future of the draft.
Okay, sounds good. We're back in a second. You can check out our podcast every day at podcast1.com/Rich Eisen Show. And also to let you know right now that Geico is out there helping you bundle your policies and make it easier to bundle your homeowners or renters insurance along with your auto policy. It's a good thing because you already have so much going on in your life and obviously going on around your home, certainly these days. Go to geico.com, just get a quote, and simply find out just how much you could save. It's Geico easy. Visit geico.com today. That's geico.com. Couple of things. Jason Hare joining us earlier on saying that there will be more of a softer view of looking at Jerry Krause later on. And I just flat out asked him, again,
all right.
I heard this all the time back in 98, too, sitting on the SportsCenter set with all my hair that I guess is coming.
Can't wait.
Reinsdorf, I would love to get him on the show and just ask him these questions. I have to delegate to Jerry Krause because I also have the White Sox to run. Well, he's also probably delegating with the White Sox, too.
Probably.
And if you're owning a basketball team and a baseball team, if you are so fortunate to do something like that, you're rich enough to do that sort of thing, okay? And you delegate. One team is, second fiddle to the Cubs in town, and I forget what the mid-'90s White Sox were like, but I think they were pretty good, right? At the time, they weren't that great.
Average.
That's the Big Hurt era, right? And that's what Big Hurt and Robin Ventura, he broke them up too, by the way. Remember they broke each other? They broke that team up too? Unbelievable. But at some point, you have to look at the owner and say, step in here. Step in. There will be, at some point towards the end of this documentary, a good 5-minute segment on what could have been. Winning the 99 season, which you pointed out in our YouTube segment on a commercial break, Chris, was a strike-shortened year, correct?
99, yes.
Right? So they could have won that one.
Yeah, it was a 50-game season.
And then you could basically say, the 2000 Lakers would have beaten them. Maybe not because Phil Jackson wouldn't have been the coach. You signed Phil Jackson to a 3-year contract extension and there's no last dance. And you tell Jerry Krause, sorry, Jerry Krause, make it work. And you tell Michael Jordan, you got your way, man. Here's your $36 million a year contract. We'll do it for a few more years. You even heard it during the documentary last night. I forget who was doing the SportsCenter part. Or was it Aldridge? David Aldridge was a stand-up saying they don't want to commit $80 million to three players.
Guys. Right.
Why not? If you're making 120 and you're put 19 trophies in the case, you could be talked about for years as the Bill Russell Celtics of your generation.
It seems silly now.
Right?
Yes.
I remember sitting there on the set at the time saying that. I might have even had a couple conversations with Stewart saying, what the hell's going on with your team, man?
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Seems silly now.
And it's also, I think, look, you could sit here and say with the second round selection, the Eagles could have done more than just what they did with Jalen Hurts. He's a special kid, a special player, and I think is going to be on the field, Taysom Hill-like, and I think is going to be there in a very meaningful way in a couple of games for this team because Wentz might not be able to answer the bell physically. And I think this is a team, as Daniel Jeremiah pointed out in the second hour, that views a quarterback position as something that requires depth, just like anybody else. But I like the pick. I know that this sounds maybe crazy because Philadelphia fans are like, why are we doing this? I like the pick. He's going to be used, and he's going to be useful if Wentz can't answer the bell, as happened for 2 years. And he's going to bring a certain sense to that quarterback room that is going to be particularly meaningful. I like it. I like the pick. And just we'll see with the Saints later on today, Jameis Winston's going to have that fleur-de-lis on the side of his helmet, and he's probably sitting there saying, okay, I don't have a starter's job anywhere. Where can I take on my team twice a year with Sean Payton being the one to draft up the plays for somebody like Michael Thomas? So I'm losing Mike Evans, but I got Mike Thomas. I lose Evans, but I get Thomas. So I got a Mike. And then
he's not going to take any snaps. He's not going to throw one pass next year. Even this year. Last year they needed Bridgewater for 5 games. Jameis knows the division. And I'll tell you this, man. Why wouldn't Jameis? Breeze is going to be sitting with Tirico on the set of Sunday Night Football, right? That's the way everybody's saying. In 1 or 2 years. But this is a 1-year contract, right? They have Taysom Hill for 2 more years. Taysom Hill's the backup quarterback. He takes more snaps at the quarterback position than anyone else.
If Breeze misses time, he's going to fill the Bridgewater role. I don't think that's a bad. We also don't know the other decisions that he's got out there.
And there was a report that Jameis turned down more money from somewhere else. Don't know if that was for a starting job.
We'll find out.
Probably not, but.
But in terms of, the NFC South of it all, did you see that Jameis is not signing until 1 minute after 4 o'clock Eastern today? Because the reason for that is that's the deadline by which, if he signs at 3:59 p.m., it's within the deadline of you get a compensatory pick for losing a free agent.
Oh.
If he waits 2 more minutes, the Bucs don't get the compensatory pick. And that's what they're going to do.
That's pretty funny.
So there you go. 844-204-RICH, number to dial. Let's take some calls here on the Rich Eisen Show. Who's been waiting the longest? That would be Donnie. Is that Donnie in Houston, Texas? What's up, Donnie?
Yes, I have a question for you. Let's say the NFL allows fans into their stadium if everything goes on schedule. But you have some states, like New Jersey, that are in bad shape that don't allow fans in. And then you have other states like Texas and Tennessee that do.
Well,
and you have Dallas and the Giants that have a home and home, and the Giants are going to say, well, listen, you have an unfair advantage. You have fans in your stadium rooting for you, and we don't.
Well, Donnie, I appreciate the call. I honestly, that's so far down the road, but we just saw a draft where they said if nobody can get into their facility, then nobody does, even if you can. They just had basically sent everybody to their homes for the draft. So I proffer to say if the NFL is lucky enough to have a full season this year and some teams can fill up their stadium and some teams can't, I don't think anybody's filling up their stadiums. But, again, that's further down the road. Let's go to Randy in Binghamton, New York. What's up, Randy?
Yes, good afternoon, Rich. Question for you. What did you think of Dave Gettleman's draft?
Okay, well, I can't tell you about the tackle other than to say that we'll see, right, that Andrew Thomas is a big dude who is used to blocking some grown you-know-what men in the SEC, and they liked him better than Wills and Wirfs and Becton. And then, Xavier McKinney was a great pick. I know you wanted him, Brockman.
I wanted him bad.
I like him as a safety. He hit the offensive line again with Pert of UConn. Let me look here.
And Shane Lemieux from Oregon.
Yeah, I don't know. Like some of these guys, it definitely fit some needs. You needed some speed and you needed some offensive linemen, and you got them. So I kind of like the pick of the tackle over Isaiah Simmons because you need to protect your quarterback and you need to get Saquon. You need to get Saquon some yards, and we'll find out if Thomas is the guy.
Well, he was right about Danny Dimes, so hopefully he's right about Thomas.
Appreciate the call. Thanks very much. Nice set of pipes from our friend in Binghamton, New York. Pete in Richmond, Virginia. You were here on the Rich Eisen Show. What's up, Pete?
Hey, what's up, guys? A couple things for you real quick. One, if they changed the way they did the draft and the Goodell's a fool, 55 million viewers, that was awesome. It humanized football. It allowed people to see coaches at their homes. Their kids are around them. Kids enjoying it. It speaks for itself. And two, is there any way we can treat this documentary like the Game of Thrones and give us, who didn't have the ability to watch it last night, a chance to watch it before y'all start talking about it?
I got it.
I'll listen off the air. I'll listen off the air.
I appreciate.
Del Tufo, I love you.
I appreciate.
Hey, Del Tufo. With all due respect,
look.
it's tough.
But it's not like there's.
We're not spoiling anything.
The Bulls are breaking up, and the Pistons were total.
Right.
They were total. What's and it's not like that we're giving anything away.
Yeah, it's 22 to 30 years ago.
I don't think we gave anything away. It's great. Interesting.
Yeah.
I thought what he's saying, who's going to get knocked off next, like that sort of Game of Thrones thing.
Yeah, we're not spoiling. No one dies.
Oh yeah. No, I
so.
know. But eventually they throw the entire franchise through the moon door. That we know that.
Yes. Good one. Good there.
We know that.
Can we
and in terms of the draft,
I just want to hit on that real quick. Ian Rappaport and a lot of people were tweeting out how much GMs and executives enjoyed being at home with their families, and it was a different aspect. Talk about maybe working less hours in the future. Do you think the days, even though it was just a year ago, of the Nashville, the Philadelphias, the Chicago type drafts are over?
No. It's still going to be something that's treated like a destination for people to go, and it'll be like an off-season Super Bowl every year. And and I don't think the format is the reason why 55 million people watched it. I think it's because we were all needing something. As much as I'd love to say that the NFL rules the ratings roost, I don't think.
But did you enjoy seeing these guys, the players, the draftees, at home instead of?
I got to be honest with you. I
stage?
saw that later because literally I could do nothing except sit there on my laptop talking to all the people who were, and that was just another aspect of the coverage that people said that they enjoyed was the draft-a-thon.
Yeah, 100%.
Because of all the folks who showed up. And my kids burst in too. Certainly, to meet Guy Fieri Friday night because they watch all his stuff. And then there were a couple of Disney stars that came on Saturday that I called my kids in because I didn't know who the hell they were. To be very honest. But, and again, I will never BS you here. The draft itself, okay, sometimes people have had an issue with it because we stop the announcements to make this announcement on stage and that announcement on stage. And then
so all of a
we're
sudden you're
3 picks behind
right?
because we're waiting for this announcement to be made on stage. And a lot of people think it is purposely staged to make the NFL look good, even though the NFL is trying to use its stage to put a spotlight on those who deserve it.
Right.
And I think folks feel it's forced or they don't believe it. It's like using human shields to make the NFL propped up, even though the NFL is trying to use the shield to put the spotlight on these people with a huge event like the draft. This time around, folks believed it. That we at the NFL were using our platform to put the spotlight where it needs to be and say, it's not about us, it's about them. And the NFL has said that a lot during the draft, and it wasn't bought by people because they're like, where are my picks? And this time around, everyone's just like, I don't care where the picks are. I just want picks eventually, and let's just all come together and soak it in. And if that could still be captured in a way and fans still believe what the NFL is putting out there, which is, again, has always been from the right place. Trust me. You think the NFL wants to stop a draft for 2 or 3 picks to make sure that somebody from the U.S. Armed Forces gets out there or a certain community hero gets out there? They do want to stop it to show that off, but a lot of fans didn't buy it. And I think this time around, we bought it for good reason, because it is the same intention. This year just felt different because of all that. And it really was just in terms of the television aspect of things, if I may take a second, what the NFL draft-a-thon, how that got pulled off and what ESPN did with NFL Network, the fact that it looked like that, it is truly a crown jewel for every single producer, man, woman, and for the children who got to experience it, a career feather in the cap. Unbelievable.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Unbelievable. I don't know if anybody wants to do that again, because it should be, hey, everybody, let's show off the town. Let's show off the fan base. Everybody, let's get together. Everyone wants to get together when we're all safe to do it. Next year in Cleveland, man. It's like the football Jerusalem. Next year in Jerusalem, as we say, in my religion.
2 years, we're going back to Las Vegas.
Back to Vegas, right?
Yeah.
We missed McShay, too. Todd McShay, who announced that he tested positive for coronavirus and has been battling it. He couldn't be part of all that, and he's a friend of this program, and I can't wait to see him back on ESPN. Our final poll results out there at Rich Eisen Show. Christopher, what was the results?
Yeah, biggest head-scratching move from NFL draft weekend. The Packers not picking a wide receiver at 38%.
And what was the other?
Packers not picking Jordan Love.
So that was back to back.
32%. Yeah, so Packers fans came out. The Eagles picked 17%. Patriots no quarterback 13%.
Okay, I want to thank today's guests, Ryan Wood, who was on our YouTube first hour of the Green Bay Press Gazette, Daniel Jeremiah, Jason Hare, who's just been great with his documentary The Last Dance, and Howie Roseman. On tomorrow's show, we have James Bond. No, I'm sorry, Cliff Kingsbury. My bad. Cliff
Bond
Kingsbury.
villain, Cliff Kingsbury.
And Dave Bird, otherwise known as Lil Dicky.
All right.
Who's a diehard Eagles fan. Still waiting for him to do that rap song called Time's Yours with Andy Reid.
Andy Reid declined.
We got to get back on that.
We got to try.
Also still to come this week, Matthew McConaughey and the creators of Billions, which returns to Showtime this week, Brian Koppelman and David Levine. Thanks to everyone for taking in this Monday show.